Sri Krishnananda Kaviraj Goswami has described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that the first sprout of the desire tree of devotion was manifested in the person of Sri Madhavendra Puri, and that sprout developed into a sparling in the person of Sri Ishwarpuri. Then in the person of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was also the gardener himself, then the sapling became the trunk of an enormous tree, the desire tree of devotion. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 9, 10, 11. Sri Ishwarapuri appeared in this world on the full moon day of month of Jyeshta. He served his Guru Sri Madhavendra Puri very faithfully, especially during the end of Sri Puripada's life. Sri Ishwarapuri, in his travels to various holy places, once came to Siddham Navadip. When he stayed in the house of Sri Gopinath Acharya, at that time Sri Nimai Pandit was absorbed in his pastimes of learning Ishwarpuris, entered Navadip Nagara in disguise, and thus no one could understand who he really was. That noble-minded gentleman was always absorbed in the mellows of the devotion of Sri Krishna. He was thus extremely dear to Sri Krishna, and he was an ocean of mercy. No one, however, could recognize him by his dress. By the will of fate, he came to Sri Advaita Acharya's house. He came to where Sri Advaita Acharya was engaged in worshipping Sri Krishna and quietly sat down there. By his divine luster, one Vaishnava cannot remain hidden from another. Advaita Acharya began to look in his direction again and again. Finally, he asked him, "Bap, who are you? I have a feeling you are a Vaishnava sannyasi." Sri Ishwarapuri very humbly replied, "I am a low-class Sudra, came to view your lotus feet." Mukunda Datta, who was also present, could also understand that this is a Vaishnava sannyasi, and thus he contrived to expose him. In his sweet voice, he began a kirtan describing Sri Krishna's pastime. When Sri Ishwarapuri heard that kirtan, at once fell to the ground, and the earth beneath him became wet with his tears. The devotees present were dumbstruck. "We haven't seen a Vaishnava like this before." Advaita Acharya very firmly embraced him. Now everyone could understand that this is Madhavendra Puri's dearmost disciple, Sri Ishwarapuri. Loud chants, shouts of Hari Hari rose up into the air. Sri Ishwarapuri remained at Navadvip for some days. One day, when Nimai Pandit was returning home from the school, he happened by choice to meet Sri Ishwarapuri on the way. Sri Ishwarapuri was as though mesmerized while looking at the son of Sachi, and thought to himself, "He has all the indications of being a divine personage, and appears very grave indeed." Srila Ishwarapuri inquired, "Oh, Vibhavuri, may I know your name? Where do you live? What is that manuscript in your hand?" Mahaprabhu very humbly offered his namaskar. Some of his disciples replied, "His name is Nimai Pandit," exclaiming, "You are the famous Nimai Pandit?" Ishwarapuri felt very happy to meet him. Mahaprabhu, coming forward and bowing his head, humbly requested, "Sripada, please come with me to my house and be my guest for lunch." Ishwarapuri thought to himself, what a pleasant demeanor he has. As though charmed by some mantra, he quietly came along with the Pandit to his house. Arriving there, Mahaprabhu personally washed his feet. While in the deity room, Sachi Mata offered the various preparations that she had prepared to the Lord. Then Mahaprabhu served the prasadam to Sri Ishwarapuri and afterward accepted his remnants. Thereafter, they sat in the temple Vishnu Graha and discussed Katha, Krishna Katha, by which they both become filled with ecstatic love. Sri Ishwarapuri thus remained at Navadipa for a few months, staying at the house of Sri Gopinath Acharya. Every day Mahaprabhu would come to have darshan of his lotus feet, and occasionally he would invite him for lunch. At that time, Srila Gadadhar Pandit was just a young boy, and Ishwarapuri was very affectionate to him. He began to teach him from the book which he had composed, Sri Krishna Lilamrit. One evening, when Mahaprabhu had come to offer his obeisances to Ishwarapuri, Srila Prabhupada spoke to him, "You are a great Pandita. I have composed a manuscript about Sri Krishna's pastime. If you would please hear it, then I can recite it before you, and you can correct any mistakes that there might be. I will be very pleased to if you do this." Mahaprabhu replied, seemingly, whatever a devotee speaks is detected by Sri Krishna himself. If anyone sees any fault in it, then he is simply a sinful wretch. Whatever poems he composes, certainly Krishna is very pleased by that. Krishna accepts the mood in which things are offered as the most substantial part of the offering. To Ishwarapuri, these words were like drops of nectar, and he could understand that Sri Nimai Pandit was an extraordinary person. After passing some days in Nadia, Ishwarapuri continued his tour of the holy places. Meanwhile, Mahaprabhu was bringing his pastimes of learning to a close, and now desired to reveal his true self and establish the religion of age by distributing love of Godhead to the chanting of his holy names. Thus he came to Gaya, ostensibly to other pinda of his departed father and forefathers. Sri Ishwarapuri was present at that time at Gaya. After having offered pindo at the various holy shrines, he finally came to the place where the lotus footprint of Sri Vishnu are. While taking darshan and hearing of the glories of the shrine, Mahaprabhu fainted and fell to the ground. By the arrangement of providence, Sri Ishwarapuri happened to come to that spot just then, learned from Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya, who had transpired. After a short time, Mahaprabhu regained his consciousness, and seeing Ishwarapuri, he got up to offer his obeisances. Sri Ishwarapuri embraced him, and the two of them were drenched by each other's tears of love. Mahaprabhu addressed Ishwarapuri, "My journey to Gaya is successful just by my seeing your lotus feet. If one offers pinda at the holy place, then his forefathers became delivered. But simply by seeing you, tens of millions of forefathers get liberation. Therefore, your presence is even more auspicious than that of his holy Tirtha. All of the holy Tirthas pray for the dust of your lotus feet. Therefore, O Puripada, I am praying at your lotus feet to ferry me across the ocean of material existence and to cause me to drink the nectar from Krishna's lotus feet." Sri Ishwarapuri replied, "Please hear me, Panditji. I have understood that you are on incarnation of the Supreme Lord. This morning I saw a very auspicious stream, and now that I actually materialize, from the first day I saw you at Navadipa, I have always thought of you. I get such pleasure by seeing you as such pleasure as I get by seeing Krishna." Hearing this, Mahaprabhu bowed his head and smilingly replied, "This is my great fortune." On another day, Mahaprabhu approached Sri Ishwarapuri and requested that he initiate him with the divine mantra. My mind is becoming very restless in anticipation of this initiation. Srila Puripada very blissfully replied, what to speak of mantras? I am prepared to offer you my life. Chaitanya Bhagavatam Adi Leela 17:10. Therefore, Srila Ishwarpuri initiated Mahaprabhu with a divine mantra. One morning, Srila Ishwarpuri came to where Mahaprabhu was staying. Mahaprabhu was extremely pleased to see him and offering his obeisances. He invited him to stay for lunch. Ishwarpuri replied that being able to accept foodstuff from your hand is a matter of great fortune for me. Mahaprabhu himself cooked and then very carefully served his guru and prasadam. Afterward, he smeared sandalwood paste on his body and put a garland of flowers around his neck. Thus the Supreme Lord himself taught how one should serve the guru without serving the great devotees. It is not possible to receive love of Godhead. Service to the guru is the door of devotion. On his return from Gaya, Mahaprabhu came by way of Kumahatta, a birthplace of his guru, and he began to roll on the ground in the ecstatic. There, as the ground became wet with his tears, finally he collected some dust from that holy place and bound it in the corner of his upper garment, saying, the dust is as dear to me as my life. Then he set out for Navadipa. The birthplace of Srila Ishwarpuri is located within the present town of Holiyahar, which is near the Kancharapada railway station, which is on the Sialla Krishnanagar line. One should get down at Kancharapada station, then proceed by rickshaw to Chaitanya Doha. Doha means pond, which is what was created when many followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, following in his footsteps, come here and collected earth to the birthplace of Srila Ishwarpuri. Thereafter Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas and by the order of his mother came to live in Jagannath Puri. By this time Ishwarpuri had already left this world. He sent two of his disciples, Sri Govinda and Kasivara Brahmachari, to serve the Lord at Nilachala. Hare Krishna.
You can read again.
Okay. Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami had described in Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita that the first sprout of the desire tree of devotion was manifested in the person of Sri Madhavendra Puri, and that sprout developed into a sapling in the person of Sri Ishwarpuri. Then in the person of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was also gardener himself, that the sapling became the trunk of an enormous tree, the desire tree of devotion. Sri Ishwarpuri appeared in this world on the full moon day of the month of Jyeshtha. He served his Guru, Sri Madhavendra Puri, very faithfully, especially during the end of Sri Puripada's life. Sri Ishwarpuri, in his travels to various holy places, once came to Siddha Navadipa, where he stayed in the house of Sri Gopinath Acharya. At that time, Sri Nimai Pandit was absorbed in his pastime of learning Ishwarpuri entered Nadia Nagara in disguise, and thus no one could understand who he really was. That noble-minded gentleman was also absorbed in the mellows of devotion to Sri Krishna. He was thus extremely dear to Sri Krishna, and he was an ocean of mercy. No one, however, could recognize him by his dress. By the will of fate, he came to Sri Advaitacharya's house. He came to where Advaitacharya was engaged in worshipping Sri Krishna and quietly sat down there. By his divine luster, one Vaishnava cannot remain hidden from another. Advaitacharya began to look in his direction again and again. Finally he asked him, Bap, who are you? I have feeling you are a Vaishnava sannyasi. Sri Ishwarpuri very humbly replied, I am a low caste Sudra. Come to view your lotus feet. Mukadadatta, who was also present, could also understand that this is a Vaishnava sannyasi, and thus he contrived to expose him. In his sweet voice, he began a Krishna describing Sri Krishna's pastime. Sri Ishwarpuri heard that Kirtan at once, fell to the ground, and earth beneath him became wet with the tears. The devotees present were dumbstruck. We haven't seen a Vaishnava like this before. Advaitacharya very firmly embraced him. Now everyone could understand that this is a Madhavendra Puri's dearest disciple. Sri Ishwarpuri, loud shouts of Hari Hari rose into the air. Sri Ishwarpuri remained at Navdeep for some days. One day, when Nimai Pandit was returning home from the school, he happened by chance to meet Sri Ishwarpuri on the way. Sri Ishwarpuri was as though mesmerized by looking at the son of Sachi, and thought to himself, he has all the indications of being a divine personage and appears very grave indeed. Sri Ishwarpuri inquired, Oh, Vibhavari, may I know your name? Where do you live? What is this manuscript in your hand? Mahaprabhu very simply, humbly offered his namaskar. Some of his disciples replied, His name is Nimai Pandit, exclaiming, Oh, you are the famous Nimai Pandit. Ishwarpuri felt very happy to meet him. Mahaprabhu coming forward and bowing his head, humbly requested, Sripada, please come with me to my home and be my guest for lunch. Ishwarpuri thought to himself, what a pleasant demeanor he has. As though charmed by some mantra, he quietly came along with the Pandit to his house. Arriving there, Mahaprabhu personally washed his feet. While in the deity room, Sachimata offered the various preparations that she made prepare to the Lord. The Mahaprabhu served the prasadam to Ishwarpuri and afterward accepted the remnants. Thereafter, they sat in the temple, Vishnu Graha, and they discussed Katha, Krishna Katha, by which they both became filled with ecstatic love. Sri Ishwarapuri thus remained at Navdeep for a few months, staying in the house of Sri Gopinathacharya. Every day, Mahaprabhu would come to have the darshan of his lotus feet, and occasionally he would invite him for lunch. At that time, Srila Gadadhar Pandit was just a young boy, and Ishwarpuri was very affectionate to him. He began to teach him from Krishna, from the book which he has composed, Sri Krishna Katha, Sri Krishna Lilamrit. One evening, when Mahaprabhu had come to offer his obeisances to Ishwarpuri, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Puri Pada spoke to him, You are a great Pandita. I have composed a manuscript about Sri Krishna's pastime. If you would please hear it, then I can recite it before you, and you can correct any mistakes that there might be. I will be very pleased if you do this. Mahaprabhu replied smilingly, Whatever a devotee speaks is detected by Sri Krishna himself. If anyone sees any fault in this, then he is simply a sinful wretch. Whatever poems he composes, certainly Krishna is very pleased by that. Krishna accepts the mood in which things are offered at the most substantial part of the offering. To Ishwarpuris, these words were like drops of nectar, and he could understand that Sri Nimai Pandit was an extraordinary person. After passing some days in Nadia, Ishwarpuri continued his tour to holy places. Meanwhile, Mahaprabhu was bringing his pastimes of learning to a close, and now desired to reveal his true self and establish the religion by the age of by distributing love of Godhead through the chanting of his holy names. Thus he came to Gaya ostensibly to offer Pinda for his departed father and forefathers. Sri Ishwarpuri was present at that time at Gaya. After having offered Pinda at the various holy shrines, he finally came to the place where the lotus footprint of Sri Vishnu are. While taking darshan and hearing of the glories of the shrine, Mahaprabhu fainted and fell to the ground. By the arrangement of providence, Ishwarpuri happened to come to that spot just when and learned from Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya that had transpired. After a short time, Mahaprabhu regained his consciousness, and seeing Ishwarpuri, he got up to offer his obeisances. Ishwarpuri embraced him, and the two of them then descended by each other's tears of life, drenched by each other's tears of life. Mahaprabhu addressed Ishwarpuri, my journey to Gaya is successful just by my seeing your lotus feet. If one offers Pinda at this holy place, then the forefather become delivered. By simply seeing you, tons of millions of forefathers get liberation. Therefore, your presence is even more auspicious than that of his holy Tirtha. All of the holy Tirthas pray of the dust of your lotus feet. Therefore, O Puripada, I am praying at your lotus feet to ferry me across the ocean of material existence and to cause me to drink the nectar of devotion, nectar of Krishna's lotus feet. Srila Ishwarpuri replied, please hear me, Panditji. I have understood that you are on the incarnation of the Lord, Supreme Lord. This morning I saw a very auspicious dream, and now that has actually materialized from the first day I saw you at Navdipa. I have always thought of you. I get such pleasure by seeing you, as much pleasure as I get by seeing Krishna. Hearing this, Mahaprabhu bowed his head and smilingly replied, this is my great fortune. On another day, Mahaprabhu approached Sri Ishwarpuri and requested him to initiate him with the divine mantra. My mind is becoming very restless. In anticipation of his initiation, Srila Puripada very blissfully replied, what to speak of mantras? I am prepared to offer my very life. Thereafter, Srila Ishwarpuri initiated Mahaprabhu with the divine mantra. One morning, Srila Ishwarpuri came to where Mahaprabhu was staying. Mahaprabhu was extremely pleased to see him, and after offering his obeisance, he invited him to stay for lunch. Ishwarpuri replied that being able to accept foodstuffs from your hand is a matter of great fortune for me. Mahaprabhu himself cooked and then very carefully served his guru this prasadam. Afterwards, he smeared sandalwood paste on his body and put a garland of flower around his neck. Thus the Supreme Lord himself taught how one should serve as guru. Without serving the great devotees, it's not possible to receive love of Godhead. Service to the Guru is the dot of devotion. On his return from Gaya, Mahaprabhu come by way of Kumarhatta, the birthplace of his Guru, and began to roll on the ground in ecstasy. There, as the ground became wet with his tears, finally collected some dust, and that put that holy place and bound in the corner of the upper garment, saying, this dust is as dear to me as my life. Then he set out 4. Navdeepa. The birthplace of Srila Ishwarpuri is located within the present town of Aligarh, which is near the Kanchapada railway station, which is on the Sialda Krishnanagar line. One should get down to Kanchapada station and then proceed to Kanchapada and then proceed by rickshaw to Chaitanya Doha. Doha means pond, which is what was created when many followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, following in his footsteps, came here and collected earth from the birthplace of Srila Ishwarpuri. Thereafter, Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas and by the order of his mother came to live at Jagannath Puri. By his time, Ishwarpuri had already left this world. He sent 2 of his disciples, Sri Govinda and Sri Keshava Brahmachari, to serve the Lord at Nilachala. Ishwarpuri ki jai. Next is another one, Punjabi.
बुक में कुछ है पढ़ी हुई बोलिए।
हाँ, बुक में पढ़ लिया।
पढ़ लो।
हाँ, मैं पंजाबी बात से है सर। Disappearance Day Shri Ishwarpuri. Ishwarpuri was the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself, disguised as his own devotee, and as such wasn't lacking in spiritual knowledge. But he accepted Srila Ishwarpuri as his guru. He established the importance of accepting a spiritual master. Ishwarpuri appeared in Kumarhatta in what is now West Bengal. He was one of the foremost disciples of Madhavendra Puri, whom he humbly served during Madhavendra Puri's last days. Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that Ishwarpuri was the best of Saraswati Thakur writes that Ishwarpuri was the best of sannyasis. To honor Ishwarpuri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as his spiritual master. Ishwarpuri wrote Krishna Lilamrita, the act of Krishna's pastime. Srila Ishwarpuri ki jai.
Any more?
Yes.
Any more?
Yeah, I'm just going different internet. Ishwarpuri was born in the town of Kumarhatta on the full moon day of the month of Jyeshta in a family of Brahmins hailing from Rahara. Kumarhatta is in the 24 Parganas district, about 2 miles from Halisahar train station. The town is also important for Gaudiya Vaishnava because Srinivas Pandit and his brothers moved here after Mahaprabhu took sannyas because they were unable to tolerate all the painful reminders of him in Navadvip. Their home is not far from the place in the Mukhopadhyay Pada neighborhood where Ishwarpuri was born. Ishwarpuri's birth is popularly known by name Chaitanya Doha. The word Dova means a pool of water. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed through Kumarhatta on his way to Puri, he showed respect for his spiritual master by picking up some earth from the place of his birth, wrapping in his cloth and taking it with him. Thousands of pilgrims have since followed his example, thus forming a pit that has since filled with water. The mercy of spiritual master. Ishwarpuri is a sannyas name. Though his name prior to taking sannyas is unknown, we do know that his father name as Shyam Sundar Acharya. Ishwarpuri took initiation from Madhavendra Puri, the embodiment of nectarine devotional love. Madhavendra Puri was pleased with Ishwarpuri's guileless, sincere and affectionate service and thus showered him with blessing, so that he too became immersed in the ocean of love of Krishna. If a disciple can satisfy his spiritual master, then he will be fortunate and attain all auspicious and the fulfillment of all the desires. On the other hand, if the Guru is unhappy with his disciple, then he will only know inauspiciousness. Mahaprabhu takes initiation from Ishwarpuri. Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and has no need of any teacher. Even so, he wishes to teach the world that it is absolutely necessary to take shelter of his bona fide spiritual master. For this reason, he played the role of disciple by taking initiation from Ishwarpuri when he met him at Gaya. This itself shows beyond a doubt Ishwarpuri's greatness and importance. Then the Lord went to Gaya, where he met Ishwarpuri. After taking initiation from him, he started to display the signs of love of God. And when he returned to his homeland, he began to engage in the pastimes of divine love. When they met, Mahaprabhu and Ishwarpuri were overcome by ecstasy of love and drenched each other in the tears of pastime that fell from their eyes. The Lord says, "My pilgrimage to Gaya is successful for today. I have seen your lotus feet. When one makes the pinda offering in an ancestors at holy place, then that ancestor is delivered. But simply by seeing you, 10 million ancestors are delivered from all forms of bondage in a single moment. Therefore, no holy place is your equal, and you are the primary source of auspiciousness for even the holy places. Please lift me up from the ocean of material suffering. I offer this body up to your service. The only gift I ask of you is that you give me the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet to drink." Mahaprabhu was acting the role of an ordinary mortal, a pilgrim who had come to Gaya to offer the Shraddha oblations of his deceased father. On the day that he performed these rituals, he returned to his home and began to cook. When Ishwarpuri came and placed his holy feet in Mahaprabhu's room, Mahaprabhu personally served him with rice and vegetable, and he himself had cooked with great satisfaction. In so doing, Mahaprabhu demonstrated most perfectly how to serve Guru. These are excerpts from Sri Chaitanya, his life and associates by Srila Bhakti Vallabh Tirtha Maharaj.
More.
Yes. Ishwarpuri was a monk who was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri from Madhva Sampradaya. He met Chaitanya at Gaya, India, whereupon Mahaprabhu requested Puri to be his guru. The latter graciously agreed and accepted Mahaprabhu as his disciple. Several days later, initiating him into the Gopal mantra. The first sprout of the desire of devotion was manifested in the person of Sri Madhavendra Puri, and that sprout developed into a sapling in the person of Sri Ishwarpuri. Then in the person of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was the garden himself, that simply became the trunk of the auspicious tree of the desired tree of devotion. Ishwarpuri was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even though Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme God, did not need a spiritual master, he accepted Sri Ishwarpuri as his guru to establish the importance of accepting the spiritual master. In receiving the seed of Krishna Prema from Madhavendra Puri, Sri Ishwarpuri became the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Madhavendra Puri could not move at the end of his life, so doing all humble services, Ishwarpuri even cleaned up his stool and urine. Ishwarpuri helped his guru to remember Sri Krishna by always chanting Hare Krishna and telling Radha Krishna's pastimes. Pleasing Madhavendra Puri by these mental menial times, Ishwar Puri received the pleasure of Krishna Prema from his spiritual master. So Ishwar Puri again showed exemplary humility, the ornament of true Vaishnava, when he first met Sri Advaita Acharya. Finding Advaita Prabhu busy serving his deity, Ishwar Puri sat down patiently and shyly. Although he was a Vaishnava sannyasi, Ishwar Puri introduced himself. I am a Shudra of lowest class. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Guru of the whole universe, honored Ishwar Puri by taking initiation from him. One day Ishwar Puri came to Lord Chaitanya's house. The Lord personally cooked and lovingly served his spiritual master. After prasadam, Lord Chaitanya rubbed sandalwood paste on Ishwar Puri and offered a fragrant flower garland. By his example, Sri Chaitanya showed how to properly worship and serve the Guru Parampara. Once, while passing through Ishwar Puri's birthplace, Lord Gauranga became filled with rapture. Taking some dust, the Lord said, "This dust is my life and soul." His samadhi stands in the 64 samadhis areas.
साइड में रखो.
Sri Krishnadasa Kaviraj Goswami has described in his Chaitanya Charitamrita that the first sprout of the desired tree of devotion was manifested in the person of Sri Madhavendra Puri, and that sprout developed into a sapling in the person of Sri Ishwar Puri, then in the person of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was also the gardener himself. That the sapling became the trunk of an enormous tree, the desired tree of devotion. Sri Ishwar Puri appeared in the world the full moon during the month of Jyeshtha. He served his Guru, Sri Madhavendra Puri, very faithfully, especially during the end of Sri Puri Pada's life. Sri Ishwar Puri, in his travels to various holy places, once came to Siddham Navadip. When he stayed in the house of Sri Gopinath Acharya, at that time, Sri Nimai Pandit was absorbed in his pastime. Learning Ishwar Puri entered Navadipa in disguise, and thus one could understand who he was. The noble-minded gentleman was always absorbed in the mellows of devotion of Sri Krishna. He was thus extremely dear to Sri Krishna, and he was an ocean of mercy. No one, however, could recognize him by his dress. By the will of fate, he came to Sri Advaita Acharya's house. He got here to where Sri Advaita Acharya worshipped Sri Krishna and quietly sat there. By his divine luster, One Vaishnava cannot continue to be hidden from another. Advaitacharya started to appear in his path and once more, finally requested him, Bap, who are you? I have a sense you are a Vaishnava sannyasi. Sri Ishwarpuri very humbly answered, I am a low-class Shudra, come to view a lotus fish, Mukunda Datta, who changed into an additional gift, may also apprehend that he is a Vaishnava sannyasi, and hence he contrived to show him. He started a kirtan describing Sri Krishna's hobbies in his candy voice, and Sri Ishwarpuri heard that kirtan. He immediately fell to the ground, and the earth under him became moist together with his tears. The devotee's gift has been amazed. We have not visible Vaishnava like this earlier then. Now everybody should apprehend that Madhavendra Puri, most beloved disciple Sri Ishwarpuri, Advaitacharya very firmly embraced him. Loud shouts of Hari Hari rose into air. Sri Ishwarpuri remained at Navadvip for a few days. On one day, while Nimai Pandit changed into returning domestic from the school, he occurred through risk to satisfy Sri Ishwarpuri at the way. He has all the indicators of being a divine personage and looks very grave indeed. Sri Ishwarpuri inquired, Oh, Viprahari, I may understand you call. Where do you live? What is the manuscript in your hand? Mahaprabhu very humbly supplied his namaskar. Some of his disciples answered. His call is Nimai Pandit. Exclaiming, Oh, you are the well-known Pandit, Nimai Pandit. Ishwarpuri felt very glad to satisfy him. Coming ahead and bowing his head, Mahaprabhu humbly requested Srila Pad, please include me to my residence and be my visitor for lunch. Ishwarpuri notion to himself, what a nice demeanor he has. Arriving there, Mahaprabhu in his view washed his feet and worshipped within sight of deity room. Sachi Mata supplied diverse arrangements and she has organized to the Lord. Then Mahaprabhu served the prasadam to Ishwarpuri and afterward usual his remnants. After that he sat within sight of the temple and mentioned Krishna Katha, though which was each become full of ecstatic love. Sri Ishwarpuri remained at Navadvip for some months, staying on his residence of Sri Gopinath Acharya. Every day Mahaprabhu might come to his darshan for his lotus feet, and sometimes might invite him for lunch. At that point, Srila Gadadhar Pandit changed into a young boy, and Ishwarpuri changed into very affectionate to him. He started to train him from the book he composed, Krishna Leela Mitra. One night time, Mahaprabhu had come to provide his obeisances to Ishwarpuri. Puripada spoke to him, you are extremely good for me. I have composed a manuscript appropriately Sri Krishna's hobbies. If you please listen, then I can recite it earlier than you. You can get accurate and errors that there may be. I can be very thrilled if you do this. Mahaprabhu answered smilingly, whatever a devotee speaks is dictated through Sri Krishna himself. Whatever poem he composes, simply Krishna could be very thrilled through that. If everybody sees any fault in this, they are virtually a sinful wretch. Krishna accepts the temper within their matters are supplied because the maximum size is a part of the offering. To Ishwarpuri, these phrases have been like drops of nectar, and he should apprehend that his Nimai Pandit changed into an exceptional person. After passing a few days in Nadia, Ishwarpuri persisted in his excursion of holy places. Meanwhile, Mahaprabhu changed into bringing his hobbies of mastering to a near and now preferred to show his real self, and set up the faith of the age through dispersing love of Godhead, while the chanting of the holy name. Thus, he got here to Gaya ostensibly to provide Pinda of his appearance, Pinda of his departed father and forefathers. Sri Ishwarpuri changed into a gift at that point of Gaya, after having supplied Pinda on the diverse holy shrines. He sooner or later got there to the area where the lotus prints of Sri Vishnu are. While taking darshan and listening to the glories of the shrine, Mahaprabhu fainted and fell on the ground. By the association of providence, Ishwarpuri returned to that spot simply then and found out from Srila Chandrasekharacharya that what was transpired. After a quick time, Mahaprabhu regained his consciousness, and seeing Ishwarpuri, he was given as much provided of his senses. Sri Ishwarpuri embraced him, and the two of them have been shopping wet through very each other's tears of love. Mahaprabhu addressed Ishwarpuri. My adventures to Gaya is hit simply by seeing your lotus feet. If one gives Pinda at this holy place, the forefathers come to be delivered. But virtually, though seeing you, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of forefathers got liberation. Therefore, your presence is even extra optimistic than that of this holy Tirtha. All of the holy Tirthas pray for the dirt of your lotus feet. Therefore, O Puripada, I prayed at your lotus feet to ferry me throughout the sea of growth, like to motivate me to drink nectar from Krishna's lotus feet. Sri Ishwarpuri answered, please listen to me, Pandit. I have understood that you are an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. This morning I noticed an auspicious dream, and now that was without a doubt materialized from the primary day. I noticed you at Navadip. I constantly have the notion of you. I get such pride through seeing you, as a great deal pride I get through seeing Krishna. Hearing this, Mahaprabhu bowed his head and smilingly answered extreme good fortune. On another day, Mahaprabhu approached Ishwarpuri and requested him to initiate him with the divine mantra. My mind is becoming very restless, and anticipation of the initiation, Srila Puripada was blissfully replied, what to speak of mantras, I am pleased to offer my very life.
you are going to Vrindavan?
This afternoon, Guru Maharaj.
उनको मैं कर लूँगा सेवा कर लूँगा उनका परम करुणा होता है दामोदर चला रहने से मिलेगा रहने से मिला मैं बाद में उनसे सबसे करूँगा वैसे तो सबसे करूँगा कुरमा शिलक लगा दीजिए कुरमा कुरमा नरसिम्हा शिलक लगा
Gracias.